Hey, everybody, welcome to pretty much Mindset Monday. We're going to continue that path that we took back in December and present a vlog to you instead of a blog every other Monday from now on. We're going to try that through 2018. And I'm really excited about today's guest because it's the beginning of 2018. This is the perfect time to get organized, and Penny Zenker's here, and she's going to help us with that. Hey, Penny. So Penny helps entrepreneurs and business leaders they actually seek her out for her business coaching because of her experience and skills and strategic approach that she brings to her business. As a former Tony Robbins business coach and international speaker, Penny has worked with people all over the world to double their businesses and create more capacity for leaders. She helps you reset priorities, so that's why it's so important right now, regain goal-oriented focus, and balance the skills and mindset needed to get results faster. And she'll challenge your leadership and business skills to a whole new level. So Penny, welcome. I'm really excited because I personally think that one of the things that holds us back from working in our zone of genius is not having this kind of strategic plan and organization. So you're the perfect person to kick us off in 2018.
I'm excited. Absolutely. I know that, I work with so many people to help them at any time of the year to get, clarity to, like you said there, to reset priorities and take a step back and really see where they're spending their time, how they're organizing themselves so that they can really get results faster, right? Because that's what we all want is we want to get those results. That's first and foremost, but we also want to get them in the most efficient and effective way.
Yes. So take it away and tell us what you've got planned for us today.
Well, I'm hoping this is going to be a conversation, and relating to whatever kind of, challenges you hear from the people that you work with, and, sharing some examples and whatnot from my experience. So, we, on our initial discussion, as we were talking, you said one of the biggest things that you hear from people is, I don't have the time. So I want to address that right up front, if we may.
Absolutely, because that is one of the biggest. I have three things I hear all the time. I don't want to put that much work into it. I don't have the time, and I don't have the money.
But right, the old time and money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, whether it's time, it's money, or anything else, we make time and we will find money for the things that are absolutely the most important to us. I know if any of you listening, and you're shaking your head because you already, that, Juliet, that, if there was something that we really wanted, maybe it didn't even make sense, right? We don't have the budget for it. It doesn't make sense. But personally, there was a fire within you that you absolutely wanted it. You found a way to do it. And sometimes I use this example, often, and this is a terrible example, so I'll apologize ahead of time for its inappropriateness. But, people who are, on drugs very often don't have the money. But isn't it amazing how they find a way to get it and to find the money, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with time. It's that we will make time to do some crazy things that are important to us, but we will rant and rave about how we don't have the time and actually spend so much energy in that excuse and in that resistance that, and I say that word with importance, it's an excuse. And I've done it too. I'm not saying that I'm above, being human, or it's a human reaction that when we want to create resistance, we look for outside circumstances and excuses to say, oh, I don't have the time. It could be fear behind that. It could be, not understanding what it entails. And so therefore rather not start it, fear of failure, fear of success. Lots of things can come behind I don't have the time. The reality is it's not a priority and you don't want it bad enough. So let's get clear on that.
That is such an excellent point. And I will tell you, last week, I actually, it was probably the fifth or sixth time I've done it, I had someone on Zoom and we were going over a program and they said, I just don't know if my husband's going to let me spend the money. And her husband walked right behind, like I could see through the door. And I'm like, hey, husband. And we got him sat down and talked about, and it was an excuse. He's like, we have the money. Is this really what you want to do? And
Right.
it was so funny because he called her out. She signed up for the program that day, but he called her out on her own stuff. And it was very interesting to watch that dynamic. And it was just what you said. It was an excuse.
Right. So first thing that I'd like to bring to the table in organization, because it's an organization of the mind. Get clear what's really important and what you want. What do we do in the beginning of the year? We set goals. So if you're going to set those goals, make sure they're your goals and that you have the drive and passion behind it, right? Because when you do, then you're going to put other things in place that are going to be successful. So that's why I bring up the excuse first, is because if you've got an excuse already about why you're not going to be successful in reaching your goals and what it takes to reach your goals, if you're not prepared to do what it takes, then you need to sit back down and reset your goals.
That is such a good point. So let me ask you this. What do you do about that? It just escaped my head. I had the perfect excuse that was, I've done this before and it didn't work and I don't want to spend the time doing it again. What do you do with that? Because that's a big excuse out there as well.
Absolutely. So with that excuse, that's because we think in many cases we know it all, right? I already know this. I hear it all the time. And whenever, time management is a perfect example. When I'm talking about time management and productivity, I have a different perspective and twist, as does, everybody that's either teaching it or, doing it. We all see things from a different perspective. And it's those little nuances in the way that you do something that make all the difference, right? You've probably heard, like in golf, right? You can change your swing a millimeter, and that is the distinction that makes you a great golfer versus a mediocre golfer.
Yes. And golf's my time excuse because I hate putting the practice time in.
But everything takes practice and everything has a process as well, right? So speaking about structure. And so for those people who say, I know this, I've done this before, then you have to think about, well, what were you missing? Because if it works for other people, I have a clue for you guys. If it works for other people, it's going to work for you too. Something in your process and the way that you implemented it was not working. So you have to be able to say what was working and what wasn't working. And ideally, one of the ways to, to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we're being most efficient and effective is to work with experts in the space, right? Is to people who have done this over and over again. They can give you those little nuances that might have been missing in the last time. And, and so you want to check somebody's track record and then work with them because they're going to save you boatloads of time and energy. It will take time because anything that you do that you want to get good at, right? Malcolm Gladwell with his 1,000 hours to become, an expert is it's not a fluke that these people who are leaders in their space, they put in the time. Don't even think that, I hate the mindset that people think that it's get rich quick, everything is going to happen quickly. That just that's an anomaly. It really does not happen.
I don't even know if it's an anomaly. I think it's a mislead on someone's part because, there's so many people out there that are 6 figures in 6 months people. And,
right.
For most people, that is not the reality of starting a new business.
Right. What did they have in place before that? They probably had a ton of stuff in place and then somebody could massage it to bring it to that point. But they didn't start from scratch, with no knowledge. There was something had to have started in that process. And so we have to understand that just because you did it before doesn't mean you did it right and doesn't mean that you were fully committed. Maybe there was an emotional block that had you sabotaging yourself. So you'd be in a different space emotionally going into something, as well as having the right strategies to be successful. So that's another excuse. gong, right? Hit that. I wish I had a gong right there.
Yeah, really. No, I wish you did too. We run into that so much with funnel building. Is people say, "Oh, I tried it in the past," and a lot of times they didn't know about conversion. They didn't know that you just don't put up a funnel and not build a relationship. Like there's a human aspect to it.
Really?
Yeah. No, they really
actually connect with people.
Yes. So I love that you addressed that. Thank you.
My pleasure. So yeah, it's, so the first thing is absolutely make sure that your goals are clear, that your passion is behind it, and that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. Another area of, I always say that structure is and organization will actually set you free. You talked about being in your zone of genius, and I talk about the productivity zone. And I use productivity simply as, a means to talk about success, because people are thinking when they're productive, they're successful. And I don't mean doing more. I mean being more efficient and effective, so getting further faster. Mm-hmm. And so, that structure will set you free, because within that structure is where you can bring that creative genius, right? But you've got to have some sort of structure, right? Every writer has an outline for what their book looks like. And then they have maybe a formula, depending on what type of book it is, or a series of formulas to choose from that help to make it successful. And then you bring in that creative genius in the middle. But there are ways to get you further faster are by supporting you with structures, whether it's a process, a formula, some rules and boundaries, whatever it is. Those structures support us to be more creative and to be smarter in the way that we do things.
Mm-hmm. I love Janet Ivanovich, who is a very famous fiction writer. She has a process. She goes into the office from 8 to 5 every day and writes. And mm-hmm. that is the routine. It's a job for her. And we see that with so many writers who, they will put their book away for 6 months because they don't have the genius. If you
right.
go in and you set aside that time, I mean, I've done it when I go back and do rewrites. Because I'm very disciplined, I will actually see days where I force myself to write and I have giant brain farts and things are spelled wrong and they don't make sense, but I wrote.
Right.
Furthered the project. So that's a great point of getting that discipline and having hours, especially as a writer or content creator.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another excuse. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
I have to be creative when it comes to me. Yes, when it comes to you, that's great, but you can bring it to you. I understand that those people, in my opinion, they don't like structure, and they actually see it as something that's constraining to them, that it takes away from sort of their personality, that how they see themselves, their identity as a free spirit, as freedom. And so the truth is that's simply because it's hitting up against something, a rule that they've set for themselves around how they define themselves. And, like many other things, they can change that rule and make a decision that actually, no, that doesn't have to be a part of who I am. I can actually bring the creativeness to myself, to situations. And there's lots of different techniques and strategies in order to do that. But you have to want it, right? It's another excuse to procrastinate.
And you know what I keep hearing over and over, and what you're saying is it's a choice.
Go figure. Did I say that? It is.
It's a choice. It really is.
I mean, I talk about energy management, and it's a choice. The energy is what makes a difference between the person who gets a lot done and is efficient and effective, and somebody who feels like, their day passed them by and they didn't do anything. The difference is how they showed up for the time. It's the energy that they brought. And if you want to create that energy for writing, you create yourself a space that does that. You can do that in your environment, right? You can create, lots of writers use prompts and different types of things just to get the juices flowing. So many different ways to strategize to make that work. And for what works for you might not work for me, but I've got to find out what works for me.
Right. Absolutely.
So another area that I wanted to talk about, which is not what people think about when they think about getting organized. And so this is an important part of organization that's usually left out. So first of all, organizations should start before a project, not after a project already starts. Like, if anybody's growing their company, it's painful and it's hard to put in organization and structure after the fact. You can still do it. And if you haven't done it, you should do it now, because the longer it goes, the harder it gets. Yeah. Right? So in that context of organization starts first, so does accountability. And accountability, I'm bringing this up because I think it's a measure of structure to support your success. And it is an organization because you have to plan it. Accountability isn't just, I'm committed and it's in my heart. What level of commitment I have will be demonstrated by what amount of time I prepared so that when things got tough, I was still committed, because things will get tough. And so I want to bring that aspect, especially, starting the year out, to how are you going to hold yourself accountable for your goals at the start of this year? And I want to bring some tips and tricks into that. Does that, you're shaking your head. Do you think that that's an important thing to talk about?
That's an important thing to talk about. I love that you're going to hit accountability. It's really important to get yourself an accountability partner too, and not one, like I could see you and I totally slamming on each other, like, Julia, I did it, and me going, Penny. That's what you need, is that person not going to go, oh, sweetie, you had a bad day. Let's both, call it an afternoon and go have some coffee or drink. You need someone I used to have a friend like that did it all the time. You need a hardcore accountability person who's going to say, suck it up, buttercup. Let's get it done.
Right. Figure out another way to do it. So one of those things is when times get tough, you need a way to push past the excuses, to get over your story or your circumstance. They're there. Nobody's denying that they are a reality for you. However, we make it bigger than it needs to be, and there's still a way around it. So it's like, accept it. Okay. And I'm not, really accept it. This is what's going on for me. And then figure out another way, right? I wrote my book. My kids were young, and I woke up before they got up, and I wrote before they got up, and I wrote when they went to bed. And I created a structure for myself, and I had accountability partners to help me out, that I had different ways to hold yourself accountable would be to create deadlines and milestones. So I worked my way backwards, and I said, okay, here's the date I'm releasing the book. And then I announce it. That's accountability. Everybody now knows when I'm releasing my book, oh crap, I have to go and make it happen. Otherwise I'm out of integrity. Then you work your way backwards and figure out all the dates, the milestones that you have to have. When does it have to get to the publisher? When does it, you have to have your final draft and cover done and right? You work your way backwards, and then you have a series of dates that you are working towards, right? That's setting up yourself for success and creating that accountability. That planning is an accountability aspect. Maybe it's an outline or a checklist in some cases of things that need to get done, that can't be forgotten, that have to be included. Reminders are a form of accountability that we can set up for ourselves. We can, there are tools out there that will send you email reminders whenever you set it up. So you can set it up ahead of time. I don't know, maybe you've got some great ideas of other ways that fall under accountability as well.
You know what? One of the things that we run into all the time is campaigns. When we're building funnels and promotions, is people, just that one little thing that goes wrong, and they say, oh gosh, it's just not going to work. And, sometimes it's as simple as, let's change a word, let's change a color, but they've given up all hope. Like, oh, right, we're never going to make it. I'm so stressed out. So, there are, having a team around you is really, really important, because a lot of times I know I will just be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And I'll go through that, what do you call it? Like a pity party. I'm an hour or so of a pity party, and my staff is still working. Like, okay, we're going to fix it. Don't worry.
Right.
So you have to be able to get yourself out of pity party mode too.
Absolutely. Right. What are you going to do to get past those excuses? It could be a series of prompts, right? And I don't mean writing prompts, but like question prompts that we hold ourselves accountable by seeing that it's not working. So you can prompt yourself with a series of questions that help you to get back on track. What am I missing here? What's next? If you're like stuck in procrastination mode, just to keep the momentum and get it moving, or, different types of questions that might be appropriate for you or, anybody who's listening.
That's really great. I'm in Adam Markell's program right now. I know you know Adam. I don't know how many of you guys do out there. He has an exercise called Your Personal Resilience Recipe.
Oh, cool.
That's very much like what you're talking about. Like, what's that achievement and what got you through that achievement, and going and reviewing that to see what got me through my past obstacles. How did I clear that out? Oh, I can do that here too. So
yeah, give yourself time to reflect. Right? We started out saying that people don't have the time. So if you don't make the time for those things that create success, then you're not going to have success, or you're not going to have the level of success that you absolutely could reach, because you're not reflecting. Like you said, you're not training your resilience. It's something that you practice. Like anything else. It's a muscle. Resilience is a muscle.
It is. It's a muscle. Another exercise I love doing is I write intentions every morning. And if I have an obstacle come up, I'll know that I immediately made my intention too broad, so it starts narrowing a little bit. So, so I'll say, well, I want it more like this, because I'll realize, does that make sense? I'll realize I put something out like, I want this to happen. I want 30 deals to close. And then all of a sudden I'll have $31 deal close.
Yeah, right. You have to be more specific.
Whoa, wait. We need something else attached to that.
Right. Yeah, totally. You have to be specific, because be careful. You get what you ask for. Just if you don't ask for it in the right way, then you might not get it the way you want it.
Exactly.
There was a really good movie years and years ago that was about that. It was really funny. He could make, what was it called? He could make 3 wishes with the devil. And every time he made a wish, it wasn't specific enough. So he'd get he'd become like this really rich and famous person, but he was a drug lord and he was being, shot after. Or he wanted to have this, wanted to be a magnet for women, but it turns out that he's gay and so he didn't even like women, but they liked it. It was just so funny. So yeah, be specific, very specific about what you want.
Yes, about what you're intending. Because the universe will always give you what you want.
That's right. So, so those are important structures, right, as accountability. So I can't reinforce that enough about how important it is to set those accountability measures up front.
Very nice. What else do you have to share with us today?
So I have so much. I'm looking down. So if we wanted to talk about, I don't know if we want to talk about, these are strategic type of things. There's also some tactical things that people need to think about in terms of saving their time and energy. We spend a lot of time looking for things, and not, because again, we don't have the time, or we're not making 10 minutes at the end of every day to file things, for instance. And I mean file emails, file, things around the house, to put our keys in the right place, all sorts of little things that create stress, right? All the time that we spend looking for something, it creates stress. Or we don't have accountability in place. We don't know how we're going to handle a situation. Then it creates stress. When we have a plan for something, it actually reduces stress, even if you don't follow the plan, because sometimes you have to deviate to be flexible, but you have a plan. So it reduces that stress level. So, take 10 minutes out of every day, whether it's the beginning of the day or the end of the day, or do it as you go along, but create some natural filing systems. So how do you set up your email? Do you have folders? Do you use filters? Things like that can go a long way, because a lot of people get overwhelmed with the amount of email that they have. Immediately put newsletters into a newsletter folder so you can go there when you need it, but it doesn't clog up your regular mail, or create a separate email just for those types of signups to save your regular email from junk mail and whatnot. When you take notes, do you take them on paper? And I'm still guilty of this sometimes, as I have notes everywhere. So I have to consolidate my notes, and I'm trying to get more consistent about it, because it's a practice like anything else. And I like Evernote, because everything I put into Evernote, I can tag. And I find it to be a really great system that I can just search for a keyword and it'll find it like really fast. On my Mac, if it's in a Word document or something, it takes me forever still to find it. But in Evernote, I can get it really quickly. So what tools, can we put into place to help us to organize ourselves so that we can find things faster, so that we can be more organized in how we go about, working our day to day. So those are typical things. I don't know. Do you have any tips of things that you do that really work for you?
That's really great. My big thing, I had two big things, passwords. And I now have a password sheet because as digital people, we have, so many programs we use and they come up and they want a new password every so often. So that was one of my big things. My other things was travel. I now put all of my documents up into Dropbox because I have several different computers, and that way I don't get someplace and go, oh my gosh, that's on my other computer. And it's a great way to keep things backed up too, because then I don't have to worry if something crashes. So those were my things, because I used to spend a lot of times like, oh my God, what was the password?
Totally. I do that too. I have them electronically available to me, so I can, at any time that I forget, I can go back to it. Mm-hmm. And about the documents, that's a really great point about travel documents. That can be for insurance documents or any other types of important documents, that they're well filed so that you can find them quickly when you need them, right? Because if you've got to make a claim, you need to be able to have it, if something happens to wherever that physical document is, you need to be able to access that. So
yeah, my other thing I got really organized was my bills, because I don't ever pay bills when I'm on the road because of the, wonky internet, your internet passwords and everything can be privy in hotel rooms to everybody else. So I make sure everything is paid before I leave, so that I don't end up, getting like, where's my money? And I have to pay on an unsecure line. So that kind of becomes a problem too, especially you travel all the time too, that.
Yeah, absolutely. So pay those bills, otherwise things will get shut off. So those are important things, right? Those day-to-days. And, one other thing, how long do we have? I'll keep talking all day.
Let's give it another 10 minutes and you're through.
Okay. So some other practical, things to think about is I find that, I think a lot of your people who are listening, your clients and your people who are following you, they're entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
Is that right? So they're entrepreneurs. So one of the challenges that entrepreneurs have is that we wear so many different hats, right? So we have, we do the work of multiple people because we have to, or we feel we have to. We don't delegate. We need to have that control because we're not used to letting go. So one of the things that we need to, for 2018 here, is to practice letting go. And that is to delegating and giving more tasks away, to professionals in those areas. They're going to do it better than you are. It used to be that I used to try to design my own flyers and stuff. And, they look like,
They look like you designed them.
Yeah, they totally do. And then and then I'd be like, I can't use this. I'll send it out and it comes back and in a short period of time and it's like phenomenal, or at least way better than I would do. So, we need to really reach out for support. You talked about team. So it's time to open up, your, again, organization of the mind is to open up and see that you need to have an organization, meaning a team to support you, so that you have somebody doing your accounting who's really good at bookkeeping and does that kind of stuff well. I mean, I know I pull my hair out when I try to do stuff like that myself. It's so, first of all, I procrastinate it until the very last minute, right? And then, nothing good comes from that. And then anything that you try to do yourself, how many times this happened to you? It's happened to me. I do it myself. It costs me a lot of time and some money and materials, and then it sucks and I have to pay somebody else to do it anyway. So I now paid twice for it, right? So don't make that mistake again, right? We need to, not say that we know this, that comes into the we know this, right? But actually do what we know. So we know that it's better when we delegate it to somebody else.
Well, it is. And I'm going to kind of challenge you on the twice, because I will bet on any given day your hourly rate is much more than they were going to charge for that flyer. So
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
The money you may be losing is probably even bigger than that.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And that could lead me into a couple of other points that I want to make. Value your time. You know, take an inventory and understand what is the value of your time. Not just what are you, you know, currently getting per hour. If you did it on a yearly basis, here's, you know, what I get. But what potential is on the table, because you can't be spending it growing your business because you're spending it in these other areas that aren't your genius, that aren't where you should be spending your time. It doesn't move the needle, and it doesn't make sense for you to work there. So I always encourage people to start there. And once they recognize that, I had one client, he literally brings in $500 million for his company. He's the rainmaker. And we wanted to tweak out just a little bit more time because he was controlling certain aspects of the offers that he didn't need to be in charge of, that could free up just this much more of his time so that he could reach further potential that he knew was there. And as soon as we calculated the value of his time, done. He's like, okay, I get it. I can hire a really good assistant, you know, teach them the pieces that they need in order to do, so I can free up that much more of my time. So, and it doesn't matter, you know, what you do, there's always a little bit more that you can give away to somebody else. It's just that you're not seeing it. Mm-hmm. So it's being open to that.
I agree.
And then I have one more thing, and then you can shut me up or ask me a question or whatever. People often, you know, we have the urgency versus important challenge, right? Is people don't know how to deal with that. Everything's urgent. That's the entrepreneur's curse. Everything's urgent, and that serves us in so many ways and does bring our business to a certain level quickly, because we're very service oriented and we make things urgent so things get done, right? But we hit a plateau because we create urgencies that aren't urgent, and that keeps us from doing the things that are most important to grow our business. So we have to challenge our urgencies, and we have to really understand which actions that we're taking are moving the needle, are driving the business, that are driving the growth of the business. And so often I encourage people to, you know, kind of write down all the categories and tasks, like write down all the tasks of work that you do. Just write them all down, right? Take a week and just write down everything that you do, and then categorize them into groups. Is it marketing? Is it, you know, HR? Is it whatever it is, right? Or even if it's within marketing, is it social media? Is it, right? And give them some categories, and then identify, for you to grow your business, really grow it, what percentage of your time are you spending in each of those categories, and what percentage of your time do you need to be spending? Usually what people find is they've got this like eensy beensy little time on sales. Yes. Right? I was working with one guy and he's like, oh yeah, actually when I look at it, I'm only spending 8% of my time on sales. And I said, well, what do you need to be spending in order to grow your business? You know, I need to be spending 25% of my time on sales. So there's a big gap there. And that's where you start to look at, okay, what can I delegate? How can I value my time more in the areas that it goes forward? So
that
probably blown everybody's mind now with all the stuff that I just threw at you.
That is so amazing, but so pertinent. When many years ago, I sold real estate, and there was a guy in our real estate sphere who literally shut the door from 8 to 11 every morning. And he told his staff, unless somebody has died or the building is burning down, you don't come in here. There's nothing that urgent. And he was the #1 agent in town. And that's how he got his prospecting done, was by, you know, telling his staff, this is like, these are the criteria of urgency. Anything else, not important.
Right. And I just had a meeting with somebody yesterday and they said to me, I can't, right? So those excuses come up. I can't do that. I have a very demand-oriented job and I can't do that. And so when it really came down to it, is there's very often an endless amount of requests that are going to come upon us. Mm-hmm. And so especially if you run your own business, you're the boss, right? So you can say that between these hours in the morning, this is my time that cannot be moved, that is prospecting time, or whatever time is necessary there. Could be something else. Could be focusing on customer loyalty that you spend zero time on, and it's much easier to keep an existing customer than it is to find a new customer. So whatever block needs to be in there, you can decide that, and you can then let go of, maybe there's some requests that you weren't able to fulfill that day. Maybe you couldn't take every call when people called and they had to go to voicemail. So what? Let them leave a message. Let them think that you're busy too, right? That you've got a lot of business to handle and that you're not available every second that they call. So that's a good thing. Train your customers also about how to interact with you. Otherwise, they'll contact you at all hours of the day. So you have to set up some rules and boundaries and create that organization for yourself, because you're the boss and nobody's creating it for you. So you have to do that.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point with the boundaries too, because I think that is one of the journeys of brand new entrepreneurs. Is they're doing everything, they're exhausted, they're working 12 hours a day, and that's not good for your business either. You have to be able to set boundaries and take personal time and vacations without your computer and without your phone and without all that technology that keeps you tapped in and not relaxing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. You know what always used to happen for me? So whenever I would go on vacation, I'd be working so hard all year, and then I'd go away on vacation, and that's when I got the big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got some of the biggest deals that I've ever gotten in my life. I got when I went on vacation. So I started to see, well, I need to go on vacation more so that I can get more of these big deals. It's funny when you let go and you relax, things don't stop. They can fall into place. They give you the space to be more creative and innovative and be better at your job. So it is, that life balance is really important, and it's up to you.
Yeah. I always say, if you want more business, plan a vacation or start painting the inside of a house.
Why painting the inside of a house?
Because you start to paint and you realize you can't stop, and something, because you live in it, and then all of a sudden the business comes because you can't stop doing that. Your mind is not focused on business. Right. I know, kind of bizarre, but
concept. Yeah, exactly. Just let go.
So Penny, thank you. Where can we find you? Do you have a free gift or an offer for us today where people can find out more about you and get a little taste of how to do this for 2018?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to, you can find me at my website. It's www.p as in productivity, or penny, 10, the number 10, and app.com. So p10app.com. That's my website. And there's an offer on there that I welcome everybody to take a look at. And it's an assessment. And so they can take a look at this assessment because it'll help them get an understanding of where they are in the 10 success factors, the 10 areas that keep us thinking and acting more strategically and keep us from getting caught up in the day-to-day. And when we condition these over time, so this self-assessment allows you to rate yourself where you are now, identify where some of your gaps are in your implementation, and then to, set actions and keep yourself in momentum of closing that gap. And there's a possibility to take it one time to get the initial awareness, or to keep coming back to it on a subscription basis so that you can condition yourself over time. Because like we said, resilience is a muscle, mindset is a muscle, and so is thinking strategically and focusing strategically on your business is also a muscle. So of conditioning where to focus to reset those priorities.
Great. Thank you so much. And for those of you who don't make it over to the website, Penny is a part of our platform building group, and you can reach out to her as well there. If you have questions, I'm sure she'd be available to answer those as well. So thank you, and we'll see you guys next week.